Hello, everyone, and welcome to the last episode of the CRM MVP podcast for 2019. This is episode number 69. And when I was thinking about, what should we focus for the last episode of the year, I had a couple of options in mind. But, one of the things that happens outside of podcasting and I guess your regular daily life is that people start thinking about New Year resolutions, right? What are the things that I want to accomplish in 2020, in the new year? And I thought it would be a good idea if I put down kind of a list of potential Dynamics 365 or Power Platform resolutions for those of you listening that haven't even thought about that. Because why would you sit around thinking about Dynamics 365 resolutions the way I do it, right? That's the kind of thing that I do, but you don't have to do that. I already did the work for you. Now, some of these are essentially created for people that are perhaps not as involved in the community as me and as other MVPs and other community leaders. So I'm not necessarily creating this list for myself, although there are a couple of things on this list that I will take on as my New Year resolution. But I decided to put together 12 resolutions, 12 options that you can, accomplish within the next 12 months, essentially. Now, you can try to accomplish one of these every month if you really want to go extreme and try to make it happen. There are some of these that are pretty tough, I guess, to accomplish within a month. However, I wrote it to make sure that if you want to pick up only one of these, you can, depending on your skill, be challenged a little bit, but be able to accomplish them. And I want you, as you think about this list, as you take notes and say, I think I can do number 5 and number 7 or whatever it is, I want you to be realistic about what are the things that you can do. And if it's too easy for you, if it's something that you do all the time, like if I say something like, I don't know, answer a question to somebody at a conference. Well, if you go to conferences all the time and you answer questions all the time, then why pick that one? It's too easy, right? I want you to challenge yourself into accomplishing things that are bigger than what you've been able to do in the past in 2020. Or perhaps you did something like this in the past, but it's not something you do every year. Maybe 2017 was a great year for you and you were able to accomplish something major. And now I'm challenging you to attempt that again in 2020. So without any further ado, let's go into the list of 12 New Year resolutions for Dynamics 365 and Power Platform for you to accomplish within the next 12 months. Number 1 on the list is to write a valuable, and emphasis on that word, valuable, blog article every month. Now, if you do the math, obviously that is 12 blog articles in 2020. Once again, if you decide to take this challenge and do once every month, or accomplish one of these challenges every month, then you're going to have to write 12 blog articles in 1 month. So that's why I said it's a little bit challenging. It's not impossible, but it's a challenge. So again, number 1 New Year resolution is to write a valuable blog article every month. And what I mean by valuable is something that adds your own best practices, your own opinion, your own kind of analysis to a specific topic. Now, I've always mentioned to people that are like, how do you get all these ideas? Like, where do you come up with ideas? And I'm like, well, the community provides ideas, right? There's constantly articles coming up, news from Microsoft, things that MVPs discovered, things you discover yourselves, things your customers discover. If you work on projects and stuff, your customers will come to you and say, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? And they will give you ideas, right? So what we want to see is how do you take something like that and add your own best practices and your own opinion about it and kind of your take on it, right? That's where we really learn from. If you just take an announcement from Microsoft, let's say Microsoft announces, I don't know, I'm just going to make something up, that all licensing is free in 2020, something like that. If all you do is you write an article that says Microsoft just announced all licensing is free in 2020, this is awesome because now we don't have to pay for it. No one it's not value. There's no value on that. You're repeating what Microsoft announced. Now, if you grab something like that and you now make an analysis of how other CRM, products are going to be challenged by, I don't know, like if you add your own spin to it, that is, in my opinion, a valuable vlog. A valuable blog for me, something that can teach me something I didn't know, a new perspective, something I didn't think about before, right? A new angle. So think about that. Don't just post one-liners and insane little thoughts that pop in your head. There's no value on that. That just adds to the noise. And there's always, people that say, how do you know who you follow? How do you know who to listen to? There's just so much stuff out there. Unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that is out there is not valuable stuff. It's just people repeating and literally retweeting stuff that Microsoft tweeted or their other experts tweeted. I'm not saying don't take that and retweet it, but at least add your own value to it. That is the challenge for 2020. So if you've been writing blogs that essentially just repeat what other people say or what other companies say, try to add your own value this time. Try to add your own spin to it. And go in detail. Like, this is what it means to me, even if it's challenging. Like, there are things that I write or I post in videos or whatever that I'm completely against Microsoft best practice or whatever company's best practice. I've posted videos about Salesforce stuff before. I posted videos about gear before. Like, it doesn't matter to me. It's just my thoughts on it. And you as a listener, you decide if it makes sense to you, or if not, if you just ignore it and keep going with the opposing point of view. And in some cases, obviously, and a lot of the time, I agree with the company and I provide kind of the reason why I agree. I agree because based on my customers and my projects, this is the way that's going to work. So I always try to add more value to it to give you a new perspective, a new side of the story, let's just say, and a new take on it. So that's my challenge to you on the first resolution of 2020. For resolution number 2, I want you to lead at least 4 webinars or presentations for the community in 2020. Now, the reason why the number is so low is only 4, and 4 you can do in a week, really, or in one conference you can go and do 4 presentations. But the reason why I want to do that is because I want the presentations to be valuable as well. I want you to put an effort to essentially teach your own experience and your own take on a specific topic. I'll give you an example. Megan Walker does a really good job when it comes to Forms Pro. And every time I see one of her articles or videos or even the podcast she recorded for the CRM MVP podcast, there's a lot of her own experience and her own kind of viewpoints on how customers will benefit from the functionality in Forms Pro and features within Forms Pro. So that is what I want to see in some of these presentations, right? And that's why, I was joking with Seth Bacon about this when he said, aren't you afraid when you're submitting sessions to speak at conferences and stuff like that, that you're going to be submitting a session that 10 other people submitted? And I said, no, I'm never concerned about that, because every one of my sessions is unique, is based on my experience, is how do I set up the user interface? How do I set up security? How do I set up, workflows and flows and automation? Like, these are my top 10 tips on how I do that, or my top 10 free tools. Based on my own opinion, these are the best 10 free tools out there, and no one else is going to agree with my exact same 10 tools. Like, they'll have their own 10. So whenever I submit a session that says, this is how I set up security, I know no one is going to submit that exact same session. I mean, the topic could be the same. Someone can say, how do I set up security? But because, my rules are written by me, the content will never be the same. So that's the idea behind it. I want you to think about, what 4 webinars can I do that no one else on earth can do, right? Because it's going to be based on my own experience. It's going to be based on my own viewpoints. If all you're going to do is list, for example, details about licensing, anyone can do that. Now, if you want to teach me how you have saved your customers thousands of dollars because of the way you use licensing, or give me the 5 different scenarios where you were able to convert full plan license users to app users that now pay $10 a month. That stuff is interesting, and no one else can teach me that because you will be talking about the projects you've implemented. And again, this is more geared towards solution architects, functional consultants, that kind of thing. But again, I want you to think about what webinars can I do that no one else on earth can do and deliver one every 3 months. I think it's pretty achievable. Again, if you want to do it in 1 month, I think it's still pretty achievable. You can do once a week, but it will be challenging to put together the content because since you're the only one that can do it on earth, then that means you're the one that has to create the content too. So this is a little bit more work. You can't just take someone else's content and deliver it because that other person that wrote the content could do it. So the keyword here is for webinars or presentations, no one else on earth can deliver but you because it's based on your own take and experience. All right, number 3 is register for the Dynamics 365 Insider Program if you haven't done that already. And if you have, I want you to commit to test every single new release thoroughly and, of course, provide feedback to Microsoft if you find any bugs or UI discrepancies or something that kind of doesn't work the way you expected. There's a lot of people that sign up for the Insider Program, which, by the way, until a couple years ago, the only way you could get into the Insider Program, when I became an MVP, it was like the only way you could be in the Insider Program was to be an MVP. Then after that, I don't know why, because of feedback or whatever, and I think it was the right feedback, by the way. I'm not criticizing this. They opened it to MCTs, Microsoft Certified Trainers. So it was MVPs and MCTs. Like that, those were the only 2 options when you register for the Insider Program is, are you an MVP or an MCT? If not, see you later. Like they wouldn't allow people to come into the program. And I'll talk about what that is in a second. If you have never even heard of this, I'll talk about what that is in a second. But then after that, they open it to some partners, right? So after MVPs and MCTs, they open it to some partners. So the partner of the year, gold partners, stuff like that, they could apply, or I guess they were invited by invitation only to join the Insider Program. And then at some point, they open it up to anyone that wanted to apply. I think that in between those two, I think they started allowing some customers too, where they picked, customers that have 100,000 users or something like that. If you're a big customer, especially if you're a customer that is using like all of Dynamics, like sales, customer service, field service, like everything, then they would allow you into the Insider Program. But basically, the Insider Program is essentially a closed community that gets to see and work with and experience and test functionality before it comes out to the rest of the world. That's pretty much the best way to put it. So right now, you can actually apply to get into the Dynamics 365 Insider Program. Now, acceptance is not guaranteed. I'm not saying that if you apply, you will for sure get in. You will have to demonstrate that you have something valuable to add, that your experience or the way you work with Dynamics or whatever will help you test these new solutions and these new tools and whatnot, whatever Microsoft releases, these new features. You will be able to test it with a different angle, right? They don't want someone who, they don't want 100 people to do the exact same thing, testing for the exact same thing. Like we want different people from different experiences and backgrounds and different angles. So because of that, the program is open for people to apply. Now, I will place the link on the notes for this episode, but if you're taking notes and you just want to go and pause this thing and go apply right now, the URL is experience.dynamics.com/insider. All right. So experience.dynamics.com/insider. All right. So that is the place where you can go and apply to become an insider. But one of the things that I tell people about it, and I recommend this to people when I know that they can bring value. I don't like making this open. And even though I'm making it open now, I think for the first time ever, releasing this URL, it's not a private URL, it's public. You can find it. That's why I have no problem releasing it publicly. I want you to, again, take a self-assessment, right? A look at yourself and say, can I provide value to the program? Because I don't want you to apply just because you gain access to free functionality, just so you can see it before everyone and selfishly test the stuff and, see if it works for your company and then don't tell anybody if it doesn't. Like, I want you to be an active participant if you're going to make this a New Year resolution and you didn't even know this thing existed, or perhaps you knew it existed but you didn't think you can register for it, go to experiencethedynamics.com/insider, register for it, and if you get admitted, be an asset to the program. Be an active participant, right? Test the stuff, report bugs, do things in Dynamics you don't normally do. Maybe you don't use field service, let's just say, just to keep picking on field service. Go in there, create work orders, add resources, like try to break it, right? Because we're looking for issues and bugs and things that will improve the final version of the product when it comes out. And it's pretty interesting. Like I've been in the past on the Insider program where we get to test functionality and the feedback sometimes is not, I don't want to say negative, but it's more like constructive. Like it would be great if it did this or if this enhancements was added. And Microsoft literally will delay the release of that feature to add the things that the people provided as a feedback. So when the feature comes out, let's say 6 months later, it's actually completed. It takes all this feedback to make it better. And you end up with a better solution overall for the entire community. So once again, if you're going to sign up for this thing, be an active participant. Don't lose it, because that's another thing. If you're not an active participant, they'll kick you out. And I think once they kick you out, it's going to be pretty tough to get back in it. So if you register, be an active participant, but do that. This is one of those things that is very thankless. You're not going to get someone publicly acknowledging you for your role in Dynamics 365 Insider program. Doesn't happen. I'm part of the program, just like hundreds of other people are part of the program. Some provide more feedback than others. I would say, I'm not the leading provider of feedback by any means in the program. Whenever I find something, I report it, but I can do a better job, trying to find other things. But other people are way more committed to the program, and they're amazing. And I tip my hat to them for, making this their focus in the year. Like, this is how I'm going to make a difference in the community. I have all these other things. You're listening to one of the things that I do. But again, there's amazing professionals out there that are, I don't want to say keeping us safe, but they're definitely improving Dynamics as a whole for the entire community, and they never get public acknowledgments of the role. So this is, one of those efforts to acknowledge all of you who work on the Insider program to make this better for everyone. So thank you for doing that. And if you want to be part of that family and that group of individuals, you know where to apply. If you didn't capture that link, I'll put it on the description below. And I'll also release a 2-Minute Tuesday on our channel, our YouTube channel. If you're not in it, please, CRM MVP Media. Just search for that on YouTube and follow us there, because it's or subscribe to our channel, because we release a video at least every week. We've been doing that for 2 years now. Okay, number 4 of the New Year resolutions is to answer 60 questions on the forums. Now, I'm making this like plural, forums. Like, it doesn't matter which forum it is. I personally like the official forum for the community, community.dynamics.com. So that's how I pretty much got my MVP award back in 2012. I was the number one, question answerer or whatever, helper. I don't know how to call that in the forums. And I did it, and I've said this publicly many times. I didn't do it for the MVP award. I did it because I wanted to learn more about Dynamics 365. I was brand new, essentially, as a full-time functional consultant, and I realized that I needed to gain a huge amount of information, and the best way to deal with that is to put yourself in real-life situations and solve real-life problems. So I went in there and I started answering every single question. If you want kind of a glimpse of what that looks like, there's a video on the CRM MVP Media YouTube channel. It's called, I think, doing MVP work for 30 minutes or something. And I literally just recorded myself doing 30 minutes of what I call, MVP work, which means answering questions in forums. And I think I did it on the CRMUG forums. That's why I said it doesn't really matter where you do it. I did on the CRMUG forums for that video, but the techniques and the way I approached kind of every question and answer them is the exact same I would follow in any forum, whether that was the official community one or not. So the challenge is to answer 60 questions. This is when it starts getting tricky to do it all in a month. It's too, if you pick a month with 30 days, 2 answers a day, so you would have to get after it pretty good. I think that on back in the day when I was in an MVP, I was probably answering about 20 a day. So that's a lot of work every day. But again, I would do it during lunchtime. And again, if you watch the video, you would see why. I would literally open the first 20 posts and I would answer all of them, or the first 30 or whatever time I had. So yeah, whenever I had a break, I would go in and answer questions. And that's how it works. So again, 60 questions on the forums in 2020. If you do it, as your yearly resolution, that is 5 questions a month, right? So you answer 5 questions a month and you hit your goal for 2020. Number 5 is to attend a class led by someone you want to learn from, right? An expert out there in the industry. Depending on the country that you're from, there's typically someone within your country or your region or the world, if you want to extend it all over the world, that will know more than you or that you respect. You want to learn from them. Now, in a lot of cases, professionals that implement this dynamics for a living are not full-time trainers. Like there are some people out there that are full-time trainers. That's all they do, and there's always the next class coming, the next date coming. So it might be tough for you to find a class from someone who's not a full-time trainer. But they're out there, right? During the year, like people that implement dynamics for a living will go out and deliver a class somewhere or a workshop or whatever it is. And if you do that, if you want to do that, then take advantage of it. You will see, for example, I think Nick Dolman, for example, is delivering portal training during the event in Scotland that is on February 29th. So I think the days before he's doing that. So he doesn't have a portal class coming every week or whatever. He's not a full-time portal trainer, as far as I know. So because of that, typically people like Nick, or I do as well sometimes, we try to tag along events. So when I teach classes, for example, it's typically at the same time as a CRM UG Summit is happening or D365 UG is happening, that kind of thing. So, you can go out there, and I'm not trying to promote myself. If you look up, I don't have any dates or classes or anything coming, so I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not selling anything. But for people out there that you admire, that you want to learn from, maybe you follow somebody, and perhaps like let's say you want to learn from, I don't know, Jonas Rapp, right? Jonas, as far as I know, he doesn't teach classes ever, but he's one of the best developers in the world. I'm pretty sure that if 10 people or 15 people reach out to Jonas and ask for him to deliver some class about, development, depending on the topic or whatever, he might be up for delivering a class. So that's why I'm saying, if you want to attend a class led by someone who you want to learn from, right? And by the way, I've talked about this before. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make when it comes to classes is that they want to attend classes by, the stuff that they don't know about. Like, oh, you know what? I don't know anything about field service. I just keep picking on field service. So because I don't know anything about field service, I'm going to go to a field service class. Yeah, I guess you can take that approach. To me, the most significant approach, the one that will make a biggest difference on your life, is to take a class with someone on something you're already an expert on, but that person knows more than you or has more experience than you or has a bunch of different angles that you didn't even think about, right? So if I had the chance to take, let's say, a solution architect class from Gustav Westerlund or take a solution architect class from Sarah Jelinek, for example, I would sign up for that. And I think I'm a pretty good solution architect. I would still obviously easily go and take a class with those guys rather than taking let's say a portal class with Nick Dolman. Why? Because I'm not very interested on learning about portals. And the reason for that is whenever I need portal work or portal expertise, I reach out to Nick Hayduke, who's my portal guy, right? Best portal guy in the world, as far as I know, or at least on the top 3, just not to throw Nick on the bus, Nick Dolman. But every time I need, any help with portals, I'm going to go to Nicholas Hayduke in Canada. That's my guy. That's why I don't need to learn portals, but even though I'm pretty good at solution architecture, I would love to take a class with someone who I deeply respect as a solution architect, because I know they'll come up with a bunch of different angles and experience and things they have tried in the past that I didn't even think about. So it will only make me a better solution architect. So once again, in 2020, I know this one might be tough for you, like if you're listening to this, and by the way, thank you everyone for listening in from all over the world. I think right now we have listeners in 40 or 50 countries or something like that. So I realize that some of you listening to this might be on a place where there's no MVP, like there's no current MVP in South Africa, for example, which I'm shocked because there's so much talent in South Africa, but there's no Dynamics 365 MVP in South Africa. I hope somebody, takes advantage of that and perhaps make it your resolution for 2020. But you can't live in a place where there might not be someone who you can take a class with, and perhaps it's hard to get into another country or whatever to take a class with someone who you really want to learn from. Maybe this one is not for you. There's 11 other resolutions on the list for you to choose from, but if you can, this will be a good goal. If you haven't done it in the past, making it a goal that is worthwhile, achieving, and I mean, it makes a real impact. Just having, 40 hours of access to someone who has, this unlimited knowledge and experience that you can, pull from will make a huge difference. Like the stuff that on your own, it will take you years to learn, you can learn in a week. So, definitely look into that. All right, number 6, and this again is depending on your skills, number 6 is to create an XRM Toolbox tool or plugin or whatever they call it these days. So last year, I begged my way to creating a tool with Clement Olivier, who is a CRM MVP from France. And Clement, I'm always, once we did the first one, now I'm like, now you have no idea how many ideas I have. But obviously he has his own ideas, right? And I wish I had the skills to be able to create these toolbox tools, because I would love to create, and the tools that I have in my head is probably only beneficial to me, right? Because they are based on projects and things that I issues and limitations that I found along the way. So, if you have the skills to create some tools, and some of you even have tools already that are private, essentially, that you have placed on the XRM Toolbox folder, and when you launch XRM Toolbox, your tool is available to you. If you have a tool that is private that you think it will be beneficial to the community, I totally encourage you to make it publicly available and support it and create some videos on how to use it, or writing some material. Regardless, I think that creating an XRM Toolbox in 2020 will be a great objective. This is obviously something you can do in 30 days. So once again, if you take that ultimate challenge, you can do this one. So definitely interesting to see what tools come up in 2020 based on this episode. Number 7 is to speak at a major conference. I know that there's a lot of you guys that go to major conference, but you never really speak at them. Whether it is because you don't want to do it, so you're a little shy, or you don't think you have any value to add, or because you have been applying, but you constantly get beat at the selection of speakers, which I know is a big challenge. It happened to me before I became an MVP as well. It was challenging to get anyone to let me speak at a conference or whatever it is. But, if that's the case, just make it your objective. There are ways you can get around it. If you're too shy to speak at a conference or whatever it is, just start easy. Start at a local meeting, start through a webinar. If you don't want to do it through a webinar, then record a video and release it out there. Just get some traction, right? There are ways to get over that. One of the best ways to do it, and the one I recommend to a lot of people, is I have some professionals, I've met some professionals, I'm like, man, you should definitely do this at a conference, deliver this. And they're like, no, I don't want to do that. It's to co-present. Co-presenting, it's a really good way to get over the fear of standing in front of a room with a bunch of people looking at you. Co-presenting is really good, especially if you pick a speaker that you really like or that you admire, right? Or a professional or coworker, for example, that, every time they speak at one of your company meetings. You're like, wow, this guy or this lady is really good. Just go ahead and co-present with them. And use the same techniques that I mentioned before on how you submit sessions for conferences, right? Things that only the two of you can deliver, right? Something that is interesting that will be accepted on a conference. So, that is the best way to get around the fear of presenting by yourself, is to co-present. And if the challenge is that you apply, but you get denied, you don't have any fear, you just want to get in front of people or whatever, once again, follow those best practices on how to submit sessions and get approved. And maybe you have to start small, right? You don't have to go all the way to the biggest room at the UG Summit. You can, start small at your local meeting. It will be easier to get. I mean, I'm telling you, like I'm a co-chapter lead for the Georgia UG chapter. And we are always looking for people to present, always. And we say yes to everyone. As a matter of fact, we point people and say, you are doing we don't wait for people to volunteer. We kind of ask, do you have any hesitation or reservations from delivering a session about flow on the next meeting? And if they say, no, I think I can do it, perfect, you're it. Right? So as long as you're not trying to sell something to the audience, you're, just kind of preachy about like, oh, this is the solution I use. And if you're stupid, you don't use the solution. Like, as long as you don't kind of violate the rules that we have for the chapter meetings, you can speak about whatever you want. Like, you want to come and do a session about goals? Go for it. Let's do it. You want to come and do a session about, I don't know, duplicate detection? Let's do it, right? So starting on a local chapter level, it's a lot easier once you do a few sessions. Like, I've recommended people that have come to our chapter and deliver sessions that I was like, wow, like this guy needs to be at the summit. Glenn Walensky is a good example from the Georgia chapter, and I'm pretty sad that he started his own chapter up in Chattanooga, which is an hour and a half from us. But I understand he had to drive pretty far to get to our own meetings. And Glenn came, and I don't know if I voluntold him to do a session or if he volunteered himself, but he did a session. Everyone loved it. Then he did another one. Everyone loved it. I recommended him to speak at the summit. He applied. He got approved. And now he's a speaker at the summit. Like every year he submits, he can speak, and his sessions are always great. So if you ever go to the summit, and Glenn is speaking, go for it. He's a really good speaker, and he does this he's the owner of Dynamics for the company he works for. He has a lot of great background and experience with Dynamics. So shout out to Glenn for that. But again, it goes to everyone. If you're struggling to get accepted at a major event, start small and build your way up. That's the way I did it. That's the way many people do it. Just gain that confidence and the feedback of people, and then work your way up. So once again, number 7 is to speak at a major conference. Number 8 on our list of New Year resolutions is to contribute 24 tips to CRM Tip of the Day. I don't know if you know that the crew at CRM Tip of the Day do a really good job making sure that there's a tip every day out there to learn from. But they take tips from anyone. You don't have to be part of the crew and get kicked out the way I did for lack of contribution. I was part of the original crew. But I totally deserve to be kicked out because it's hard to commit to doing one every day. And the guys have done such a great job. I mean, they are in the thousands right now. I mean, they've done it for a long time, longer than anyone out there. But they do take suggestions for tips. So contribute 2 a month, 24 tips to the tip jar. So the tip jar email address is jar, J-A-R, at crmtipoftheday.com. So send them emails, send them unsolicited stuff too, commercials, whatever you want, whatever you're trying to sell, just add these guys too. They love to see unsolicited material. No, I'm just kidding. Just send them 2 tips a month for 2020. Jar at crmtipoftheday.com. Help them out. Any tip that comes to mind, something that wouldn't be long enough to write a blog article about or to do a whole webinar about. Like sometimes you come up with easy tips. Like one of the ones I contributed was one of the things that I do in implementations is whenever, and this I do it on like almost every single project, is for the phone call entity, I like to place the phone call from whoever we're calling as part of the title of the phone call at the end. I like to append it at the end. So it's a quick workflow. When you create a new phone call, I need to call this person, and you hit save, a workflow goes and appends between parentheses the phone number of the person you're calling to the title of the call. So when you look at the title of the call inside of Outlook, because you synchronize it, you synchronize it to Outlook as a task, it will say, call Ben to discuss new proposal, and then between parentheses 555 blah blah blah. It will have the phone number next to it. So it's just a kind of a little tweak. You can't do a whole session about that. You can't do a whole webinar about that, or a whole blog article about it. It's just a little convenience for users, just to improve the user experience inside Dynamics. The guys at Tip of the Day posted that as a tip. So once again, the resolution number 8 is to contribute 24 tips to the tip jar. So jar, Jar, at crmtipoftheday.com. Number 9 is to learn something new about Dynamics 365 and Power Apps every month. Just learn something new about it. Pick a topic, dig into it, look through docs.microsoft.com. A lot of this stuff has free content on Microsoft Learn. You can go and learn how this stuff works. So learn something new. I'll give you some examples. Let's say you don't know Forms Pro, just because we were talking about Megan earlier. Go and learn about Forms Pro. And that might be involving, that might involve looking at everything Megan does, because she's the global expert about Forms Pro. And maybe next month you say, I want to learn about resource schedule optimization. Boom, go and learn that stuff, right? So you don't have to become an expert at it. Megan has spent months and months and months learning and testing new things, but at least learn about it. Next one will be relationship insights. The next one will be, customer insights. Next one will be Power BI with direct SQL queries. Or just to mention that, the data export service from Dynamics 360. Just pick something, Canvas apps, whatever it is, and learn it every month. You don't have to dedicate the whole month to it. You should, I think, if you want to be proficient at it. But at least if you spend, a few days learning about something, or even a day, I think you can learn a lot within 8 hours of dedication to, let's say, resource schedule optimization. If you dedicate 8 hours in a month to it, you will be decent at it. You won't be an expert, right? You won't be Ben Vollmer with resource schedule optimization. He's the global lead for field service for Microsoft, but you will be decent. You'll at least understand where to fit it. If you ever reach that point or that gap in a project, you will say, where I think resource schedule optimization will be a great solution to solve this business challenge or this issue or problem that we're finding here, right? So learn something new every month about Dynamics 365 and Power Apps. Flow. Learn about Flow. And it doesn't even have to be all of Flow. You can say, I really want to learn, let's say, approval flows this month. And that's it. Learn how to do those, or learn how to distribute flows, very well to child records. Learn how to whatever, right? Just learn about something every month. Challenge yourself. Again, we're not talking about take a class or anything like that. Not a major time commitment, but enough for you to at least know what it is and where you could use it in the future. If you want to become an expert at it, go for it. That's great. And I think that in a lot of cases, like it happened to Megan, it happened also to Eliza, for example. She always talks about the fact that she signed up. I believe the story is she signed up to deliver a session about Flow, and she waited until the last second and she couldn't really do it. Or she was going to deliver a session, but she was planning on using Flow for it. But until the last second, she didn't have time, so she did it with workflows. But that kind of sparked the interest on doing it with Flow, and then she went back and did it with Flow. And now I think she does only Flow. She doesn't even use workflows. So a little bit of a little spark can cause you to really become an expert on something, apparently, if you are obsessive compulsive the way some of us are when we learn something. It's like, oh, I wonder what else can we do. I wonder what else can we do. And next thing you know, you're an expert on it. So that's the idea. All right, number 10 is kind of related to number 9. So number 9, remember, was to learn something new every month. Number 10 is to teach something new every month about Dynamics 365 and Power Apps. So once again, the idea is you're going to take, it doesn't have to be what you just learned that month. It can be something you're an expert on already. It could be something that you've done 1,000 times, but take someone within your company and teach them, right? Maybe you lead a lunch and learn every month, like let's say the first Tuesday of every month or something like that, or the last Friday of every, whatever it is. Just pick something and use a lunch and learn, or make it Dynamics Tuesdays, or it doesn't matter what it is, but teach somebody maybe within your organization, or if you want to go out to the community and do it community-wide, teach something new about Dynamics 365 and or Power Apps every month to someone that doesn't know about that. If, let's say, you work at a company, and I know that a lot of CRM administrators listen to this show. If you work at a company and you, let's say you sell, I don't know, cables, all right? Whatever. I bet your users don't know about, let's say, multi-level filtering within Advanced Find. Like, you could teach them that. Maybe they don't know how to create their own charts. Maybe they don't know they can embed Power BI tiles inside personal dashboards. Maybe you didn't know that. Now you can learn that and teach that. So, every month, teach somebody something new. And again, it doesn't have to be what you just learned. It can be something you already knew about. If you want to pass in what you just learned because you're excited about it and pass it down to other people, that's cool. If you have other coworkers, like if you're a CRM admin and there's 2 other ones, maybe those 2 is somebody who you teach what you've learned, and so on. Just, again, make a commitment to teach somebody something new every month. And again, if you're keeping count and you're doing this within a month, like, because I know some of you might say, you know what, I'm going to take the MVP New Year Resolution Challenge, the ultimate challenge, and I'm going to do all of these in 2020, then that means 12. You have to learn 12 things in a month, and you have to teach 12 things in a month. That can be challenging. I think so, because it doesn't depend just on you. Like, to learn things, you can learn 100 things. But to teach them, you have to get people convinced to, listen to you and make it happen. So, again, if you want to keep tabs, and maybe some of you will say, I'm going to do all these 12, but not within a month. Like, I'm doing it in a different particular order. Like, I'm going to do the teaching something every month, so I'm going to complete that one, but I'm also going to, like, you may pick to do all 12 and you don't have to complete them within a month. So that's another way to do it. I just wonder if you can take this whole list and really complete it in 2020. I think it would be too much of a challenge. And I think that if you do this whole list, you're probably going to get the MVP award. So maybe we should call it MVP Resolution Challenge for 2020. All right. That wasn't the intention, by the way, but I do think that you're probably going to get it. Number 11 on the list of New Year resolutions is, to push yourself to use new functionality instead of something that you might be more comfortable with. And I'm talking about, for example, it's not even new. There has been a new view editor in the Power Apps creator, or the Power Apps administration, essentially. You can use the new view editor there, which is, by the way, available also in the model-driven app, the design center. So if you go into the designer, you can use the view editor there. There's a new solutions manager. And again, I'm hesitating to call this new because they've been out for a while, but no one pays attention to it. So I'm calling them new regardless, because I think it's new for a lot of people listening to this. There's a new solutions manager. I talked about this on 2 Minute Tuesdays, where you can now create solutions that include flows and Canvas apps and all of Dynamics 365 stuff. So maybe you want to use flows instead of workflows. A lot of people, including myself, create workflows instead of flows. For something you can do with flow, you create a workflow. I've been pretty good about this over the last, I would say, 6 months, for sure the last 3 months, where I'm creating flows instead of workflows if I can do it with flow. Now, in a lot of cases, at least till today, and I'm recording this right before the year ends, 2019, there are some things I cannot do with flow that I can do with workflows, like real time, stopping people from doing something, I can't do that with Flow. So because of that, I'm using Workflow in some cases. But the idea is in 2020 to push yourself that unless you can't do it with a new functionality, you're going to do it with a new functionality. So that is a New Year resolution. And it's going to be difficult at once. You're going to feel like you're learning Dynamics all over again from scratch. But I think that once you do it, you're gonna learn it, and you're gonna know exactly what it does. So if in one day Microsoft gets rid of the classic way of doing something because they finally reached that parity, and you can do everything on the new interface versus the old interface, you're already an expert on it. You don't have to at that point be like, oh man, I didn't see this coming. Like, you don't have to worry about that because you already know it, right? It's kind of, you have to get pushed to learn something new, and I think this New Year resolution number 11 would be that way. The form editor is another one, right? I've been using the new form editor a lot more. It's really, really nice if you get into it. Now, I do find myself having to go to the classic form editor once in a while because things are not working the way they are. But what I do know is that if I can do it with a new form editor, once Microsoft makes the switch, I'll be pretty proficient about it. I won't have to make the transition and learn as you go. And perhaps if you wait until the last second, that's probably going to happen as you need to deliver some important functionality next week or something. And now you have to learn the new stuff and it doesn't work the way you thought it would work. And anyway, you would struggle. So that's the idea behind, learning the new stuff, trying the new functionality before trying the classic one. So make a commitment to trying new functionality, new tools, instead of something you're more comfortable with for 2020. Lastly, the final challenge of 2020 would be to release a free solution to the community. All right, and that can mean anything, any solution. Now, some people might say that creating an XRM Toolbox tool is kind of a free solution. I don't count it. I count that as a tool. Now, the tool could be a solution to a problem, right? So, if, for example, you're trying to, let's say, run 200,000 workflows or something, then using the bulk workflow execution tool from XRM Toolbox will be great. It will solve that problem for you. So, it's kind of a solution to your problem, if that is your problem. But I'm talking about a solution that you can import into Dynamics to enhance the capabilities of Dynamics. I'm talking about the ultimate workflow toolkits solutions of the world, where I can import something and do something within Dynamics that I couldn't do out of the box. So no, I'm not counting XRM Toolbox tools. That's a separate challenge. This is a import unmanaged or managed solution. If you want to make it managed, that's okay, and keep ownership of that. I want to allow people to import this into Dynamics, into their model-driven application, and enhance the capabilities of Dynamics out of the box. So I've done this in the past. I released a solution a long time ago. I think the first year I became an MVP, and I started shifting my contributions to the community from just answering questions in forums to doing bigger and better things. And one of the things that I added was a phone call, and that solution is somewhere. I used to work for a company, and they kind of kept it, and they kept ownership of it. But it was a phone call manager, I think I called it, or assistant, phone call assistant maybe, that added just some extra fields to the phone call entity that allow you to schedule follow-up calls. That's something that is missing in Dynamics. So in Dynamics, you can do, let's say with appointments, you can do recurrent appointments. But if you have a phone call with everybody or with some customers every week or every month or whatever for the next 12 months, there's no really way to do that. Now, you can schedule a recurring appointment and call it a phone call, but it's not really a phone call. When you go back into Dynamics, it will show up as 12 appointments, not 12 phone calls. So if you're getting if you're getting metrics based on how many times you call somebody, those won't really work. So what I did is I added a bunch of fields, not a bunch, maybe like 3 or 4 fields in the phone call entity that would say, it would give you a schedule. So I'm going to schedule a follow-up call for next Wednesday or whatever it is, and you close it as completed, and a workflow back in the day would create a phone call that with the same information, but it was next week, just like you specified. So it removed the need to create a new record. The workflow will do it for you, and it also had the chance to create recurrent ones. So with the recurrent ones, You pick recurring. I want to do it every month starting on this day, and I want to do it 6 times because we have a monthly call for 6 months in a row. Same thing. A workflow will then go and create 6 phone calls, one due every month after that, or whatever it is. You get the point. So I released that solution out there. We got thousands of downloads from that solution. Everybody used it. It was great. So I haven't done that in a while, and that is one of the things that I will commit to do in 2020. I will come up with a solution or two, and I'm going to release them for free. Now, again, free solutions don't necessarily mean that you can benefit from it. There are some great solutions out there. Cobalt, for example, has a solution for adding a recycling bin into Dynamics. So if you delete something, you can recover it. They ask for personal information, like what's your email address, what's your phone number, and they may or may not, send you marketing materials. That's their prerogative, but again, the solution is free. You don't have to pay to get it or to use it. So I'm not gonna say that you have to release it without getting anything back. I personally will do it that way, but that's my own choice. I will, whatever solutions I create, I'm probably going to just put them on OneDrive and share the link without requiring any signups. But that's me. I don't necessarily discourage other companies from doing that. As long as the solution is free, even if you have to provide information, I think is okay. But the challenge is to create a free solution for the community, something that would enhance Dynamics, and release it out there. Just one. You only have to do one. That's it. That's challenge number 12, the last one of the list. Create one solution, release it out there publicly, and let people use it or not use it. Obviously, you can add your own, how do you call it? I don't know, disclosure or rules about it. Like mine is going to be that way. I'm going to release a solution, and it's not going to include 24/7 support, and it's not going to be customized to your company. Like if you want that, then you have to hire somebody to figure that out. And I'm going to release it unmanaged too, by the way. And I'm not saying that whoever is taking this challenge has to be unmanaged or managed, but I'm going to release it unmanaged. Like use at your own risk. You support it. It's 100% free. Now, obviously, the solutions I have in mind, which I have a few, they're all super simple. They're not going to break anything. But if it does, put it in dev first and try it. I'm going to add my own disclaimer. That's what I was looking for. Add your own disclaimer. You don't have to support it. You don't have to, this is not a business. This will be for the community. So that is the challenge. Release a free solution to the community. Thank you so much for tuning in to the last episode of 2019. I know that at this point, you're probably not thinking about work or anything like that. You just wanted to relax with your family and your loved ones and, kind of wait for 2020. Or perhaps you're listening to this in 2020. If you're listening to this in 2020, by the way, just get started right away. You didn't miss the boat. Like if you're listening to this in February or something, just get after it. You still have 10 months to do this stuff, to pick one or more of these and go ahead and do it. I would love to hear some feedback from you on Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever it is that you see this, maybe on the comments within the show. So if you go to crmmvppodcast.com and you listen to the show there, you can add comments to it as well. I would love to hear from you. Which ones do you want to do? Which ones are you taking? Like this, I think this will give us accountability, right? If you're telling me you're going to release a solution in 2020, it will give me the chance to follow up with you and check to see if that's what you're doing. Or it gives you yourself public accountability. It's kind of the same thing Eliza did with her session, where she said, I'm going to propose that I'm going to deliver this session with flow, and that makes me accountable, and now I have to go and do it. I have to go learn it and deliver the session. So if you have that, go ahead and send me what number you want to do, what you're planning to do. This is not, if you don't do it, that's okay. Most of the New Year resolutions kind of fall apart within a few days anyway. I do hope you take it seriously, though. And whatever you say you want to do, go for it. You can pick one or multiple or all 12 if you want to do the MVP resolution challenge, MVP 2020 resolution challenge. But if not, just tell me, like, hey, guys, I'm gonna give it a shot to number 1, 7, and 10. Cool. Whatever it is, Let me know what it is. Let me know what you think about the list. Let me know if you have other resolutions, by the way. I don't expect this to be the end-all, be-all of all lists. Like, this is the only ones that matter. These are just the ones that I thought of that are very achievable, and, it will be at the same time challenging for you to accomplish. But maybe you have another resolution out there that I didn't even think about. So go ahead and share those with me on, whatever you got this podcast from. So again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for listening throughout the year. The episodes will keep coming. We don't stop. So 2020 is going to be full of episodes as well for the CRM MVP podcast and for the CRM MVP media YouTube channel. So once again, we keep releasing videos there. If you are on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe. Let us know that you're watching and give us any ideas or tips for us to make it better. As always, if you have any questions or comments, info@crmmvppodcast.com is our email address. Obviously, we're on Twitter @CRMMVPpodcast. If you have any questions or comments or ideas for future guests, go ahead and drop us a line, and we'll see you on episode 70, which is the first one for 2020. See you then.